I was on my normal morning drive, heading to the job I hated. But I needed to put bread on the table, so I went no matter how much I hated it. The only peace I got during the day was driving down the old country roads that led to the city's countless and monotonous office buildings. It was there I'd spend 8 to 10 hours a day behind a computer desk editing newspaper articles. I preferred to write stories, not check for grammatical errors. But I was stuck with this job, at least until I found a publisher willing to sign me. I wouldn't even mind editing grammatical errors if it were for something fictional, something fun. Not this depressing war, inflation, and tragedy. But until there was an opening somewhere else, I was stuck editing this depressing crap. Somehow, the morning drives kept me sane. If it weren't for my morning drives, I'd be likely to lose my mind and end up in a psych ward. The way the fog rolls off the mountains calms me. The stillness of it all. There were no cars except mine, so I was able to just zone out and drive. Some days, if I got out early enough, I'll park on the side of the road, just to walk around one of the vast open fields. Lucky for me, I got up early enough and was actually able to do that. I parked at the side of the road at my favorite spot, the big hill just before you enter the city. From there you can see the outlines of skyscrapers through the fog. I parked out of the road in the off chance that another driver went down this narrow road. I sat down on the guardrail, looking at the fog, still so thick you can't see very far in front of you. I can't see the skyscrapers like I normally can. The fog must be a bit more thick than it usually is. That was usually what I looked at. I would usually just look into the distance at the skyscrapers and smokestacks. No big deal. I'll just turn around and... Is that a person? There was a silhouette of a woman in a torn dress. She had long hair. She was nothing but skin and bones. Not like skinny, literally skin and bones. She looked like she had no muscle mass or fat at all. I stood up off the guardrail. "Hey, are you alright?" I shouted over to her. She said nothing in reply. Instead, she began to walk closer and closer to me. Miss, are you okay? Can you hear me?" I still heard nothing in reply. I couldn't tell you exactly what it was, but something seemed wrong. Call it a sixth sense or common sense. Something was wrong. I thought it would be best to get in my car and leave. In all the horror movies I've seen, the guy who waits around to see the monster's face is always the one that ends up dead or insane. I had no interest in either of those scenarios. I ran to the car and locked the door. The woman stopped and turned her head at an impossible angle. I saw 2 pearl white eyes open. They were staring at me, judging me silently. I could almost hear a sinister laughter, but I knew it was in my head. All of this had to be. It had to be a dream or hallucination or something. I tried to start the car, but all it did was sputter and die. Great time for this piece of junk to die on me. The shadowy figure walked closer to the car door. I stood there, frozen in fear. I did the only thing I thought I could do. Scream as I desperately tried to get the car to start. She got closer and closer. I started to make out her features. Oh my God. Her flesh was rotten, peeling off, revealing her decaying muscles and feeble bones. Her dress was covered in dirt and blood. I still couldn't make out her face, save for the white eyes transfixed on my car. Come on, move, you worthless piece of trash! I shouted, kicking the floor of the vehicle. A frost began to develop on the road, and on the back of my vehicle. It was July. There's no way this was natural. The car wasn't going to start. I needed to get out of here, now. I tried to open the door, but it was jammed. Pushed the door hard, but it wouldn't budge. Frost began to cover the driver's window. Just before it completely enveloped the window, I saw a thick layer of ice covering the door, effectively blocking it. I wasn't going to give up, not that easily. I kicked the windshield as hard as I could trying to escape, but it barely even cracked the glass. Now, I was far from a bodybuilder, but don't get me wrong, I wasn't weak either. There's no way I just barely left a crack in the windshield. I couldn't give up. Not yet. I kicked it again and again and again. Still, there was barely a crack in the glass. The frost had covered the car completely now. Even though it was iced over, I saw the woman's eyes staring at me. I began to move to the passenger seat, pounding on its door, trying to open it, screaming, crying for help. But help never came. It was then I saw the woman's face press up against the glass. She was pale, and her black hair was dirty and unkempt. Her mouth had been stitched shut with several cuts across her face. She began to pull at the stitches in her mouth, tearing them off. Blood began to spill from her mouth and onto her dress. I stood there, paralyzed, as she began to pull at the stitches impatiently, clawing at them. Even through the window's glass, I could hear the horrible sound of flesh being torn apart. I tried to scream, but I couldn't find my voice. She had pulled all the stitches out of her mouth, or where her mouth should have been. Now it was a huge gaping hole. Her entire jaw and neck area, one massive mouth with sharp teeth. Then she let out a shriek so loud and piercing it broke the glass in my car. She began to crawl inside, her mouth hanging open. I saw my chance to escape, and I took it. I jumped through the passenger window. Everything was encased in thick ice around my car. I didn't stick around very long to question it, though. I could still hear her horrid shriek. I ran as fast as I could back to my home. The city was too far away to run to. I ran back to my home and locked all my doors and windows. I barricaded myself in. That was 2 weeks ago. And now I'm running out of food. I can hear her out there. She never leaves. The shriek has become normal to me. I know I'm gonna die here. Every morning when the fog rolls off the mountains, she draws closer and closer to the boarded window. Yesterday she was on my porch. The fog will cover the ground any moment now. I'm writing this because it's the last thing I want to do before I die. Write my own story. I know I said I wanted to write fiction, but this was the true story. Goodbye.